Hello and welcome back once again. What an eventful weekend of Guinness Six Nations Rugby. To talk about that, I have joined by Guy Thompson, Leicester Tigers back row player, and of course Tom Varndell, the Premiership highest try scorer, of course former England, as well as Wasps and Leicester Tigers. Gentlemen, the weekend thoughts first up.
It was an amazing opening weekend. I think the results went pretty much to plan. But the actual games, they were brilliant. A lot of tightly fought contests.
Yeah, Six Nations is always one of the most exciting times of the year. Even us as players, we can't wait to get around and watch it and support teammates and enemies alike.
Let's have a look at few analyses before we go into deeper in this game. If you look at this performance in terms of attack and in terms of territorial position and in terms of attacking minutes played, you can just go through this?
Yeah, so I was actually just seeing these stats now and I was actually surprised by them. I watched the game live and I know that's probably the worst that England have played for 40, 50 minutes of that game, and to come out with a Looney's bonus point as they did after the result at half time, I think they'll be massively proud of it. There's a lot for them to work on, but at the same time you've got to credit the French. We'll talk about the impact of Shaun Edwards later, but they just look like a really well-oiled machine, and what's scary is they're such a young squad with a huge amount of abilities, so they've got a long way to go, but to nil England at half-time was something very special.
Yeah, I mean, that first half performance was one of the best I've seen from the French in a long time. The way they come out in terms of their defence and attack, the phases they put together, England didn't have any answers, and they were brilliant. I mean, guys touched on the defence already, but their defence set them apart from England, and like I say, England just could not play under that amount of pressure.
Absolutely, indeed. You can look at the total passes, 72 versus 162. England have done quite a lot of possession territory, but still, in that very first half, they occupied the opposite red zone 7 times, came up with no score.
I think if you look at it as well, the total passes, the possession, the territory, everything goes to show exactly how on top France were. They basically let England have the ball, they let England have the possession, and France backed their defence. They backed themselves in the 22, which is something you don't really associate with France. What you do associate France with is attacking flair, is offloads. This is a different France we've seen. They're very content to let you have the ball and back their defensive structure, which I think can be worrying.
And this comes down to Shaun Edwards. I mean, I worked with Shaun Edwards down at Wasps, and he always used to make us get excited about being defending, making defence a form of attack. And that's what France did all day long against England.
Absolutely. The World Cup France will host in another 4 years' time. It seems like they have already prepared. Or is it too early to call that?
It's way too early to call that, but I think the way that France can go with their squad, they'll definitely be contenders. As you mentioned, they'll be at home. That's a big advantage. They've got one of the youngest squads in the Six Nations at the moment. So again, if they can build and keep this squad together, they've shown what Shaun Edwards has done within 3 weeks, and that's their first game. Imagine what he can do with 3 years. It could be worrying for the other teams how good France could get with a bit of structure.
Absolutely, indeed. Even Jeremy Guscott, the great centre for England, former centre, in fact, he was surprised that Edwards that made this turnover within just 2-3 weeks in ample time.
Tom, you played under Shaun. I didn't have the pleasure of playing under him at Wasps, but everybody talked massively highly of him. Tom mentioned how he gets people excited for defence. There's no coincidence that when he was at Wales, they were a well-drilled defensive side. When he was at Wasps ran the blitz defence. They were one of the first people to do it. He's now moved on to France, a team that I guess historically haven't been the best defensive side. And again, 3 weeks, he's turned them around and he's made them a well-oiled machine. So look, the Shaun Edwards effect is massive. It's a massive signing for French rugby.
And the thing about Shaun, he keeps things very simple. There's not too many different things you have to think about. It's all focus on your role. Everyone else will do their job, and everyone will work together. And there's no holes. And it's very, very simple. It's about line speed. It's just making your one-off tackles, and that's what the French are doing. They're just putting the pressure on the English attack, and there's no answer at the moment.
And isn't that how the England played against All Blacks, the drift defence and the rush defence?
Yeah, that was a hell of a game in itself, wasn't it? At the World Cup, again, England were the underdogs in that game. They had nothing. They had no pressure. They had no pressure on them really. All Blacks were expected to win. I think sometimes that's easier. France probably didn't have a huge amount of pressure on them at the weekend, so they were able to play the game they wanted to impose. England against the All Blacks just took away their set piece and made it difficult for them to play rugby. So it was a very similar blueprint.
Charles Ollivon, the skipper, was outstanding, scoring those 2 tries. Also the halfback who won the BBC Man of the Match performance. So let's look at his stats.
Yeah, I thought Dupont played really well. He carried a lot for a scrum half. kicked well, his meters made were pretty high, but for me, I think the French 8 was absolutely outstanding all game. Aldrit, he was superb. I think he gave the France go forward, he gave them penetration, he gave them the hard yards that they needed to when they had the ball to create opportunities out wide. I don't think that you could really take anything away from him there.
Yeah. Again, I have to agree with Guy, but I do think the scrum half was outstanding. The way he did control the game, his kicking game, he always seemed to find grass behind the England defence, turn the pressure back onto England all the time, and just kept the game moving. You know, he kept putting that pressure on, kept turning the back three of England, and I think he was deserving man of the match. I think he did deserve that one.
I also think the 7 for France was outstanding. He's a young guy. He plays down in Toulon. He was exceptional in that game. He caused England all sorts of problems at the breakdowns.
Absolutely. He just had come off the bench last year because Louis Picamol, of course, dominating that French number 8 for so long time. And let's talk about now, Johnny May was outstanding, scoring 2 tries. You're a Leicester fan, I know. You're a Leicester teammate. In fact, giving all those respect for those individual solo brilliance, scoring those 2 tries, Tom, just tell me that you should play for Whistle, just allowing that.
Yeah, there was obviously that one moment in the game where he did switch off. Obviously, the ball goes up in the air. All the England boys thought it was a knock-on by the French. It wasn't called back by the TMO, and they all stopped playing, Johnny especially, and the winger just went straight the way through, and obviously that led to the try. So, you know, it's a lesson to, I suppose, that all the kids watching the game, don't switch off. Absolutely. Don't stop playing until you hear that whistle. But obviously it wasn't a knock-on, and that did cost England.
It was strange for Johnny to do that. I'll jump in there because I train with Johnny, I play with Johnny. He is one of the most switched on people you'll ever meet. In training, he always plays that far. He must really have thought it would have been a knock-on because he's not that sort of player at all. So he'll be gutted with that. But at the same time, if it wasn't for Johnny, they wouldn't have scored. Simple as that. He scored those 2 tries, which no one else in world rugby can score. So he apart from one little switch off, I thought he was exceptional at the weekend.
The big puzzle right now in England. Who should be England's number 8? Is it Dom Barnes from Harlequins or is it Tom Curry? Tom Curry, of course, we know that he played instrumental in that Rugby World Cup and he was nominated even for the Player of the Year. But why do you switch?
I think it's clear to see that England lacked any penetration, really. They had no answer to that defence, to the size of the French. And once Manu went off, they had nothing really in terms of their physical presence on the pitch. Don Brandt will offer something from the back of the scrum, and I think he needs to come in and he needs to make that change because Curry, for all what he's good at, he doesn't have that size and have that penetration in his running game.
Tom Curry is one of the best 7s at the moment in world rugby. I don't understand why you'd move him out of position from 7. He's exceptional. For me, if you're looking at bringing an 8 in, there's 3 on the shortlist for me at the moment. That would be Nathan Hughes. He's experienced. He's probably playing some of the best rugby of his life down in Bristol. He's in great shape. Both Tom and myself have played with him. He's an exceptional person to have on your side. I think Alex Donbrandt is turning up trees at the moment. He can't put a foot wrong. I was listening to Paul Gustard at the weekend after the Quins Exeter game, and he spoke about how Donbrandt has now got an all-round game, which I think is evident for everyone watching. He's probably the form 8 at the moment. And then people have forgot about Sam Simmons down at Exeter himself. Sam Simmons is a special player. He is one of the quickest people you'll ever see on a rugby field, and he's a number 8. He's physical, he loves the pick and go game, and he can do things that no one else can do in the back row. So I think any one of those 3 would have given England a little bit more penetration. At the moment, when you're relying on someone like Manu Tuolangi to do all your carrying, there was no Billy, there was no Mako. Like with Manu as well, he will carry all day for you. But I don't understand why you'd carry Manu into 4 people every time when he's great at one-on-one. Play him second or third phase, let the bigger guys up front take the first hits, and then get Manu one-on-one with people, and then he'll destroy them.
And Tom, talking about the back rows, will Fordy start again or will Farrell have to take the leadership?
I think Ford actually had a good game. I thought some of his kicking game in the second half was good, and you know once they start getting into their rhythm, I think Ford had a good game. I think they'll stick with the Ford-Farrell sort of combination. I can't see them making too many changes there because both of them provide a leadership, especially in that back line. They both work very well with each other. They've known each other for a long time since age group rugby, so I can't see any changes really happening there. And like I said, I think Ford was. I think they'll build into the tournament. Obviously they were slow to start. And they think they were taken aback by the dominance that the French had in defence, especially physically. So they will improve this week. They would have gone back to the drawing board a little bit and had a look at the weak areas in their game. But I can't see them making too many changes.
Well, England versus Scotland back in Edinburgh. How much this game is going to be in terms of a mental perspective? Because Scotland in the firing line after that disappointment loss.
Yeah, look, we'll mention Scotland shortly. They probably should have beat Ireland at the weekend over in Ireland, so they're going to be disappointed with that result. England are going to be hurting after that result in France, and there's no love lost between Scotland and England. It's Calcutta Cup, it's in Scotland. There's probably not a bigger game, and realistically, the loser of this loses their chance to win the title. Simple as that. So now it's knockout rugby for both of these, so it's going to be a great game.
Yeah, and I don't think the Scottish can be too disappointed about last week. Obviously, I think my score prediction, I thought Scotland were going to get absolutely smashed last week, but they stepped up, and like you say, they should have won due to some butterfingers by Hogg. But I think it's going to be a tough one for England. They're going to be licking their wounds a little bit. They're away in Murrayfield. Scotland have got it all to play for, and I think they'll be up for the game.
Let's talk about Scotland tactics. Also, no Finn Russell once again. Will that be another major impact? Or talking about comparing how Farrell played, probably one of his worst games, isn't it?
Yeah, look, any team that doesn't have the opportunity to use Finn Russell is going to be lacking in quality. At that position, he's probably at the moment been the form 10 in Europe. He's been exceptional for Racing in the European Cup. Look, I don't understand why he's not playing at the moment. I haven't delved into it. I haven't looked at the stories. I don't know, so I'm not going to comment on it. As for Farrell, yeah, Farrell had a bit of an off game, but it's not just the skill set that makes Owen Farrell a good player. It's his leadership, it's his ability during the week to put a game plan in place, and it's the way that he'll lead the boys. I wouldn't break up the 10-12 axis of George and Owen because I think it's exceptional. It works extremely well. They've known each other for a long time. England will go to Scotland confident. There's no two ways about it. That one bad game doesn't make them a bad team. They came second in the World Cup. They've had a bit of a blip against France, who played very well. They're going to go to Scotland confident. They're going to think they can win this game.
Finally, Tom, where does Elliot Daly will fit in?
Elliot Daly, he's a tough one, isn't he? He's such a unique player. He's got so much talent. I think personally, fullback is his position. I think you should bring him into the team at fullback because I think his kicking game, his awareness, his speed. I don't think there's many people that compete with him on the world stage.
He really linked up with the Sarries playing at that fullback, scoring plenty of tries.
Yeah, he will. But the thing is with Elliot, and they'll put him on the wing, is because he's quicker than most wingers. Yeah. So he is exceptionally fast. But the problem is when you put Elliot out wide, you take away a massive part of his game. He is exceptional at coming off the wing, finding space, taking skinning boys from the 13 channel around, bringing other people into the game. Like we both played with him at Wasps for a lot of years. And I think every game he did something from the middle of the field where he could take someone on or slight gap and he was gone. You put him on the wing, he's slightly out the game a little bit. He still plays extremely well. But for me, Elliot's a 15 with his kicking game, with the way he reads the game, the way he comes off the wing.
His link play. I mean, there's been so many times when I've been on the wing and Elliot's been at 15 and he'll take the inside line on that inside defender and he'll give that outside ball out the back and just set you free down the touchline. And that's what Elliot brings. He's that link man. He's not just an out-and-out finisher. He's got the kicking game. He can kick into space for wingers to run onto it. He's got such awareness as well in attack. So I think they've got to bring him in at fullback.
He's one of the most competitive people I've ever met, apart from Tom.
Apart from Tom. He's indeed your good old friend, James Haskell. He just defends playing Tom Curry at 8. Your thoughts?
He defended it?
Yes. Because Eddie was asked him to play at 8 during the 2 years ago, or maybe 3 years ago at Six Nations, out of his 7, and he said he did well. And then James asking Eddie, media says I shouldn't pay.
As a player,
yep,
we would play anywhere to have the opportunity to play for England. Tom's done it. He's very proud of that. If someone said to me, "You got to play England fly half," I'd play it. I've never played fly half in my life.
That would never happen, though.
No, I know it wouldn't. But the point is, if you're a player and you're told to go and do a job, you go do the job because you have an opportunity to play for England. That's, I think, probably what James was saying. And you don't listen to anybody else because at the end of the day, the only opinion that matters to you right there and then is your coach. If your coach believes in you and believes you have the ability to play 8, you'll go out there and you'll play it and you'll believe you can do it because he's instilled that confidence in you. And at the moment, the only person that really matters to him is his teammates and the other people inside that England camp. When they're in the Six Nations, that's their bubble. Everything else from the outside, they won't really listen to. They won't want to hear. They believe that whoever has the opportunity to wear that shirt will wear it with pride and will do the shirt justice. That's all that matters when you have the opportunity.
Well, I think England have a chance to win with the bonus points, maybe if they come back, unless Scotland win by a point. Gentlemen, your scores predictions.
Oh, what are you going?
I'm going for an England win, But I'm going to be.
Two ways.
I think it's going to be very, very close. I don't think it's going to be a high score at all. So I'm going to go 17-12.
Guy?
I don't know. I want England to win. I'm English. I want England to win. They need to change their game plan. They need to find some penetration. Scotland have got an exceptional back row that will take ball if you're not careful. Scotland at home, I think Scotland are going to pip it. I think it's going to be like 27-25. I know, and I want England to win. I really want England to do well, but I just can't see where the penetration's coming from to cause Scotland the massive issues. Yeah, I think Scotland will just pip it.
Well, comment your score prediction below. We'll go for a quick break and we'll be back. Welcome back once again. What a game in Dublin. Ireland just edged over Scotland, 19 points to 12. Butterfingers of Stuart Hogg, as we discussed. Let's talk about that game, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about this last week, and I thought Ireland were going to absolutely run rings around Scotland, but Scotland were good. Scotland played very, very well. Actually, for the majority of the game, I think Scotland were the better team, and obviously it came down to Hogg not scoring that try, and obviously they just missed out on getting that win.
Yeah, look. When Ireland play at home, they're always going to be favourites. They're an exceptional side, and the sign of a good team is a team that doesn't play well and gets results. And that's exactly what they did. They've got Farrell at the helm now, haven't they? He'll be very good for them. He's an exceptional coach. He understands the game. This wasn't the greatest game by Ireland, but they've won. They're at home. They move on to the next game, and they'll get better as the tournament goes on.
And like we spoke about earlier on, I think Scotland will take a lot of confidence from this going to the next game against England. Obviously, they're back at home at Murrayfield, which is going to be massive for them. And they'll be proud of that performance, because being away from home against Ireland and getting that result and actually losing, they lost the game. It wasn't that they were outplayed by Ireland. It was a case of that a couple of mistakes, a couple of handling errors just cost them.
Absolutely. Let's have some stats. As you can see, 46% position, but you can go through on this.
The stats are almost 50-50. Yep. The only one that really looks different is tackles missed, which says Ireland missed more tackles. So they obviously got put under pressure by Scotland. They obviously created some opportunities. Tackles made, though, are almost identical. But if you look at one stat as well, Scotland's discipline, 14 penalties to 9. The difference in penalties there, 5 pens is a lot. At international level, that's a lot.
Yeah, and Johnny Sexton was the difference in the end, wasn't he? He kicked all his goals, he kicked all his penalties, he scored the try. And obviously the penalties, they're going to concede territory because the kicking gave Sexton as well. So, that's something they're going to have to work on next week against England, because England have got a very, very good kickers in Ford and Farrell. So, they'll have to learn the lessons, and they'll have to, up their game for next week or for this week. But I think, like Guy said in the predictions before, it's going to be a tight game, and maybe Scotland can pip England.
And you know what? There's only around 4 to 5 offloads in this game. I was watching the Crusaders playing Warthas. Can you imagine how many offloads in that game?
That surprises me, because Scotland are a team that want to play.
Yep.
They've always been known as the side that, if you watch Glasgow and Edinburgh play as well, they're teams that take it to the opposition. They're normally high up on the offload list. They normally want to try and create things. You can either say Scotland weren't quite there, or maybe Ireland's defence took that away from them. Whichever way you look at it. So then you look at it and go, okay, Ireland played well because they took away Scotland's natural game. But for the result to be so close in Ireland, and most teams thought Ireland were going to walk it, it's going to be a positive, as Tom keeps saying, for Scotland moving forward. But also a positive for Ireland. They've not played well, they know that. They've won the game, they move on. Ireland will get better.
And I think personally, Scotland have actually evolved their game from last year or the World Cup. They've had to move on. They've had to tighten things up a little bit because before they were becoming the whipping boys of the Six Nations. They were there or thereabouts at the bottom of the league every single time.
They were too loose.
They were too loose, exactly, and they conceded a lot of turnovers and teams were scoring tries pretty easily against them. Ireland couldn't do that. There wasn't too many holes in Scotland's defence, and I think we've seen a new sort of Scotland, and they're bringing a new style of play to their game.
Was it last year, Scotland-England, the big win back to almost a draw? Was that last year in the Six Nations?
I think year before.
Year before.
Right. Let's talk about what went on Stuart Hogg's mind. He knows that it was a knock-on, but he just did celebrate.
Yeah, I liked the celebration. It was a good celebration. He tried to. I think he forgot
For the
there's.
fact he
I think
forgot there are so many
there's
cameras
40
out
cameras
there.
around
Yeah,
the stadium.
exactly.
As a player, when you go over and you knock it on, we've all been there.
I haven't been there.
I've seen you do it.
No, you haven't.
I've seen you do it in training more than once. You're going to celebrate because you never know. You never know if the ref's going to check.
But did you see the replay?
No, but imagine.
He didn't just drop it.
Imagine.
He dropped it from about 6 foot up in the air.
Now you go over, you drop it, you celebrate, your kicker grabs it, kicks conversion.
Yeah.
Before they've got chance to kick it.
There's always a chance.
No one knows.
There's always a chance.
However, if it's always pretty obvious.
Yeah.
But you've got to credit him for giving it a go.
He did give it a go, bless him.
You'd do the same.
I would.
the same.
I mean, the embarrassment, I think I'd sub myself off the pitch. But, it's such a shame because, like we said, if Scotland had scored that try, maybe the result's going to be different. And at that point in the game, they were on top.
Yeah.
They were on top, and that was a crucial point because as soon as that happened, it was like, right, Ireland knew that was their chance to push on now. They've escaped, and they can go on and win the game.
Is it something that Stuart Hogg's mind going about the captaining or the leadership?
I don't
He has the pressure.
I don't think it was. I just think he's gone and done what everyone says never do. He's gone one-handed place. And even as a school kid, you're told, don't do that, always two hands. I mean, even when I was at Wasps and Leicester, the coach would always have a go at me in the analysis after the game for going over with one hand and being cocky, because you never know, that one time it happens.
It's not cocky, it's habit. It's getting the ball down as quick as possible, going down with two, going down with
fundamental.
one. Yeah, it is fundamental, but come on, how many times, that's not going to affect Hogg at all. Yeah. And the next time he scores, he'll go in one-handed again and put it down.
It's just an error. And he'll probably score 100 tries, and that'll be the only time he ever drops it. It just happened to be on the biggest stage, in the Northern Hemisphere sort of rugby calendar.
It's worse when you're celebrating before you score and someone catches you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, Ireland, Scotland.
Did catch it?
Ireland, Scotland, CJ Sander, what a performance once again by the legend.
Standard.
Yeah.
No, CJ Sanders being one of, I think, the finds for European rugby. He came over from South Africa, didn't he? Played in Ireland for a number of years and got international recognition. He gets better and better and better every game. Every time Ireland play, I think it's either Stander or Sexton that gets man of the match.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone else gets a look in. They both stand up every week. Look at the amount of carries. That's 17 carries for 73 metres. This is international rugby. Yeah. 17 tackles. He's an absolute workhorse for Ireland, and he gives them so much go forward that gives them the opportunity to attack house wide and do the dirty work.
I think for international rugby, it's all about consistency. It's about not just being able to play well one game, it's every single test match. And he's a player that the coach, he'll be one of the first players on the team sheet. Him and Sexton, consistent performers week in, week out for Ireland, and they can rely on them. And that's what these teams need. If you're going to be one of the best teams in the world, you need these individuals that are going to be consistent, who are going to lead from the front and who are going to perform week in, week out.
Does it for Munster as well, every single game.
Right, let's talk about how well they manipulated especially the Sexton combination coming in, that Gary Ringrose, of course, got injured, but they just survived this Scotland scare. But going into the next game, what sort of methods that Andy Farrell going to bring to Ireland?
So yeah, Andy Farrell is a massive influence as a whole in rugby. He was exceptional when he was coach of Saracens. He was great when he was at England. He's got the opportunity at Ireland. They will get better. It will take time to implement what he wants them to get to, but they will get there and they will get really good. Ireland at home again this week against Wales. Wales had obviously a thumping win against Italy, but that didn't really tell us much. It told us that Italy are not quite there yet, and Wales managed to score 42 points against them at home, which, let's be honest, quite a lot of teams do in Six Nations. Ireland have come through a tough game against Scotland. They would have learnt more about themselves than Wales learned about themselves last week. So I'm expecting Ireland to be on point this week and probably put Wales away.
Yeah, and I have to agree. I think Ireland show glimpses of what they can do, but the fact they did survive that, they have come through a tough game. They'll be a bit more battle hardened as well, because Wales didn't really have to play too much. I mean, they were good, they were clinical in what they did, but they still weren't tested physically as much as Ireland were. So I think that will stand Ireland in better stead this weekend.
What would Wales do differently compared with that? It's going to be the real test coming with the new coach, of course, Wayne Pivac.
It's hard, to be fair, for Wales, because they did do so well and they were so clinical and they did score so many tries. They'll get away, full of confidence. But
and Tom, also the stats doesn't look really great playing in Dublin for Wales.
Yeah, it's a tough place to go. I mean, Ireland are a very, very good side. They've been there or thereabouts, one of the best team in the Northern Hemisphere for probably about 3 seasons now.
Ireland were a lot of people's tip for the World Cup.
Yeah, definitely. They had a very good year last year. They weren't great in the World Cup, as we spoke about last week. But for Wales to go over to Dublin, it's going to be a real test for them. I don't think they'll want to change too much because their performance was so good. How can you change too much after getting a win like that? So they haven't been tested. So this week we'll see how they stand up. If they come through this, then they've got to be favourites for the Six Nations.
Absolutely, indeed. Well, before we go for a break, what's your predictions?
I'm going to go with an Ireland win. And again, I think it's going to be tight, a bit like the Scotland game. I think this weekend is going to be very tight fixtures. And I think Ireland will just pip it. Again, I think it'll be 25-20.
Yeah, I echo what Tom said. It's going to be a close game. Wales will have their moments within the game. They will have opportunities to score tries. If they take it, they'll score. Simple as that. And they'll have an opportunity to build something and maybe convert that pressure into points. But I just think Ireland are going to be too dominant. I just think Ireland at home are an outstanding side. They know how to win. They'll be better this week than they were last week. They're battle hardened, as you said. They're probably going to win sort of late 20s to late teens. So it'll probably be like 27-18, 27-19, something like that.
Well, interesting clash up between Dan Biggar versus the captain, Johnny Sexton. We'll wait and see. I think Wales going to edge this and stay. Please do comment on this video on what your score predictions are. We'll go for a break and we'll be back. Welcome back once again. I'm joined by Guy Thompson. Of course, the Leicester Tigers are number 8, or the loose forward, and the Tom Varndell, Premiership Rugby's highest ever try scorer, former England Wasps and Leicester Tigers, of course. Wales versus Italy, 42 thrash.
Yeah, big result. Spoke briefly about it earlier, saying Wales wouldn't have learnt a huge amount from it, but what they will be happy with is the clean sheet. Preventing any team from scoring international rugby or in any game of professional rugby is something that everyone sort of like wants to achieve. It's what we aim for. So for them to keep the 0, they'll be especially proud of that. Scoring the 42, they'll also be happy. All rugby players like scoring tries, as Tom agrees, he's done enough of it. But it was the way they scored their tries. It was their backs. It was the opportunities they created against Italy.
Yeah, and obviously a new coaching team as well. They'll be so happy over that. Going to their first Six Nations game, clean sheet, great win, and like Guy said, the clinical, so clinical. Their backs, every opportunity they got, every line break they converted, they came away with points, and that's what will it's international rugby. Yes, it's Italy. Italy are renowned for probably being near the bottom of the pile most seasons, but they've still international players. They're still quality players, and to get a 0. Is pretty special.
Italy normally spring one shock in a Six Nations, and let's not forget they've beaten Wales a few times over the last couple of years. So Wales going into this game would have been very aware of that, knowing they're at home, they cannot slip up at home. I know they normally lose maybe once or twice away in Italy, but they were very aware that they cannot switch off for this game, which is probably why they managed to put 42 points on them, because they would have prepared very well.
Yeah, and I don't actually think Italy were that bad. No. I don't think they were. It wasn't like there was loads of turnovers or loads of poor passing or loads of knock-ons or errors. It was just that Wales, they took their opportunities. Every time they got behind Italy, they converted, and that's what international rugby is about. It's taking your opportunities, and I think the score was a little bit harsh on Italy, but fair play to Wales.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at few analysis in terms of position. Italy had the key of 52%, but again, like you said, they just couldn't penetrate the opposite half, and they just couldn't capitalize on the position.
If you looked at those stats and didn't know the score, you probably would have thought it would have been very, very close, or you might even have thought maybe Italy would have slightly won. It doesn't really give a fair reflection of a 42-0 loss. They've had more attacking minutes than Wales. They've had more possession. They've made less tackles. They've missed less tackles.
They've missed more tackles.
They've given one penalty away. And they pass more. Like, you look at those stats and you say, that's a team that's probably won the game.
Yeah.
So they will take, with Conor O'Shea, they will take massive positive from that game. I know it's 42-0, but they will take positives in the way they played and know they need to be a little bit more clinical themselves, but their stats aren't that bad.
I mean, that's what it is. It's being clinical. They got into the right areas, but they just couldn't convert. Wales got into the same areas and scored every single time. It wasn't down to poor defence. It was just a case of they just picked the holes well. I mean, one of the tries that Josh Adams scored, when he just got the ball and chucked it through his legs. It was just that Wales, everything they did went well, and there was confidence. Yeah,
it's confidence, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dan Biggar is an established 10. He's an exceptional 10. Since he's moved to England, I think his level's gone up again. He's been exceptional for Northampton Saints this year. I've been on the other hand of it. He's been very, very good. He's now gone into a Wales squad where he is now, and has been the last couple of years, the out-and-out 10 for them, first choice. When he's fit, he plays. He has the confidence to lead that team, and they believe in him. That's a big thing, and he has the confidence to throw the ball between his legs. He has the confidence to run the game, make breaks, offloads. When he's on form, he is massive for Wales.
Yeah, when he's on form, Wales are on form, and on the weekend, they were on form. Like, literally every part of their game, everything they did, they didn't do much wrong. And poor old Italy, they're the ones that had to suffer because their game wasn't that bad, but Wales were just on point of everything they did.
Absolutely. Biggar would have done or would have learned a lot from Chris Boyd, the man who coached Beauden Barrett, the All Blacks fly half in the Hurricanes. Obviously, there's so much to get that from that coaching outfit.
It's not a bad coach to have, is it, really? Boyd, he's been exceptional since he's come over. His coaching CV on itself, coaching the likes of Richard McCaw, Beauden Barrett, like these top Kiwi players, and they all reference him as a very good coach and a mentor to them. So the fact that Northampton Saints got him over here, gave him the opportunity and gave him free reign to coach how he wants to coach, and the way they've played last season and now this season, then it speaks volumes for him, but two, it speaks volumes for the players that are learning off him.
And it's no coincidence that Northampton are doing so well at the moment in the Premiership. Just talking about their coaching staff, you've got Sam Vesti, who's a young, English coach who's coming up through the system, who's doing very, very well at Northampton. You've got Phil Dowson as well, who's doing very well over there as well. They've got a great environment down there, and it's showing now in the way that Dan Biggar's playing. He's playing with confidence, like Guy said, and it just goes through. And then that will just go through the Welsh team as well. If you've got the 10 playing well, and who's pulling the strings, it makes everyone else raise their game.
Justin Tipuric has been outstanding. He's a good replacement, but since Sam Warburton left Wales, talk about his impact.
Tipuric's been very patient, I think. For years before he had his opportunity, he was made to wait. Since he's had the opportunity, I think he's one of the best sevens in Europe. I think he's exceptional. His engine, his fitness is second to none. His attack involvements in all games, he has the ability to offload, he has the ability to pass, he has the speed and the awareness. He could play in the backs, which I think every good back rower these days can do. But not only that, his defence, I don't know if the stat's still true, but he's made the most tackles in Six Nations without missing one in the last year or 2 years. He doesn't miss tackles, and he's always at the top of the tackle count. So it's not that he's not trying to make the tackles, he's making them and not missing them, which is a massive thing to have.
Absolute brutal work rate as you witness, but that comes from all the number 6s, 7s or the loose forwards if you look at the French player as well. So what do you think about Thomas Young? Will he get a place from your Wasps?
Thomas Young, he's been so unlucky, hasn't he? Because he's been outstanding for what, 3-4 seasons now?
Is it something like whether Don Brun should involve or Thomas?
I think Thomas is one of those players that you put him in any team and he improves it. His skills, exactly what I've just said for Tipuric there, Thomas is the same. He's exceptional in the breakdown, he makes a huge amount of tackles, and he can play in the backs. The problem is with Thomas is he's had a few injuries recently. That's the only reason I can see with him not being a starter for Wales, because I'm a massive fan of Thomas and I think he's exceptional and should be playing.
How should Italy improve their game pattern?
They're going to be licking their wounds this week. Obviously, they've taken an absolute hiding. It was a tough one because, like we said, they haven't played that poorly. I think they did everything they possibly could to keep themselves in the game, but Wales were on point with everything. They're going to have to go away and focus on the positives, focus on what they did, they're building the phases, their set piece. Their kicking game wasn't too bad. They just need to work on their finishing ability, I suppose. You know, getting over that try line, keep the points ticking over. When they're in that scoring zone, take the kicks at goal, get the point. Once the scoreboard starts ticking, then they can build onto their game, and then that's what they've got to focus on this week. But unfortunately, they're playing France, who are pretty good at in their first game.
What's going to be interesting now, Italy-France this week. France have had a massive result. Now let's not sort of forget France are very hit or miss. They're not very consistent. Is the Shaun Edwards factor something that's going to make them more consistent? This is a potential banana skin for them. Yes, they're at home. Yes, they're against Italy, but this is a banana skin. They have to address this game the same way they did with England. Otherwise, Italy can pull off a shock result. So it's going to be really interesting to see. I think France will win, but I think this is a potential banana skin.
Let's talk about the new coach, Fabien Galtier. We spoke about Edwards already. As a head coach, as a renaissance continues of French rugby, investing quite a lot of money into top 14, one of the richest in the world. Talking all those, he just made the country together.
Yeah, he has. He's done a great job. Yep. What I think he's done really, really well is he's picked a big core squad of young players that have been playing in the top 14 and proven themselves there. But now he's given them the opportunity to prove it on a world stage at international level. He's building for the World Cup in 4 years.
And Guy, mind you, French under-20s, they won the Six Nations back-to-back last 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. They've got a huge amount of ability coming through. He is looking for the World Cup in 4 years in France. That's going to be their target. By bleeding in these younger guys now, giving them opportunities, making them captain, giving them opportunities and responsibility, he is building for the future. With the Shaun Edwards effect, with the Galtier effect, they're going to be contenders. It's a long way out, things can change, but they're going to be contenders.
And what he's done, which not many French do, because the French tend to keep it within France. The fact he's got Shaun Edwards in, who's someone from outside of that normal French sort of mindset, is going to be massive for them going forward. You know, it's a different point of view, different way of thinking, you know, completely different experiences with the English game that Shaun's had and his rugby league background. France never do that normally, and obviously it's had a massive effect in the first game. We'll see if it continues, but I can only see them growing and getting better and better, especially with the youngsters they've got coming through as well.
Also, the fact that those French players have accepted Shaun Edwards in. Yeah. Shaun can be very brutal. Ooh. So if he's an outsider coming in, speaking, and I know he's practicing his French, but he's not fluent yet. Some of the things he's going to be shouting at them is going to be hard to translate across. The fact that they've accepted him, and the majority of them probably speak pretty good English anyway, but the fact that they've accepted him in, brought him in, and wanted to learn off him, says that this team want to go forward as well. They don't want to just be, okay, we could be good. Yeah. They want to be good. They want to be the best, and they're really, really accepting this challenge.
Well, Gaël Fickou, the highest French caps in that backline, he was given the task to lead the backs along with Teddy Thomas and the other names coming in. They were fantastic as well.
Yeah, Teddy Thomas. Yeah. I mean, Teddy Thomas in that first game, he got outpaced a couple of times by Johnny when Johnny obviously got them two brilliant tries. But all across their backline, they all seem to be stepping up now. They all seem to be all on the same same plane, same game plan. And it shows. I mean, when a team is working together so well, and they've been playing with each other for a while now, it just makes everything so much better. Their defensive system was in shape. They never really got caught, with holes in there, and they never really made any mistakes in attack either. Everything was very fluid, and it looked really, really good.
Finally, score prediction, gentlemen.
I did say it could be a potential banana skin, and there is that. But I just think France are going to be. I think they're going to be more consistent now. I think they're going to go big. I think it's going to be sort of 40, 50 points. I think Italy will score. I know that France's defence is very good. I think it's going to be about maybe 44, 45 points to maybe 10.
Yeah, again, I've got to agree. I think France are going to come out flying like they did against England. I think the first 60 minutes, they're just going to rack up a massive score. I think they might drop off towards the end in terms of their fitness a little bit, and Italy might grab a sneaky try here and there. But I think it's going to be about, 40 points to 10.
Well, probably everyone except the Italians will predict that score without a doubt. Do comment your scores as well, and that's all we have. We'll see you next week with the Week 3 preview of Guinness Six Nations.